Welcome back to our channel. Numerous significant events have unfolded across the globe, demanding our attention. Today, we delve into a complex and often opaque aspect of international relations, the challenges citizens of certain nations face when attempting to enter the United States. Why are some countries essentially blacklisted, making it nearly impossible for their people to ever set foot in the U.S.? We're not talking about just a handful of rejections here and there. We're discussing a situation akin to a full-on visa denial mode. Imagine facing stringent border controls, navigating endless bureaucratic hurdles, and confronting nearly insurmountable odds of approval. Could your nation be on this list? Or perhaps more disturbingly, is it included for reasons seldom brought to light? From regions embroiled in conflict and political upheaval to nations entangled in deep-seated distrust, these places are almost invisible on America's welcome list. And consider this. Some of these very countries once enjoyed robust ties with the United States until geopolitical shifts dramatically altered the landscape. In this analysis, we will explore 10 Asian countries whose citizens face extraordinary difficulties in obtaining U.S. visas, examining the intricate reasons behind these barriers. We will present the facts, historical context, and the human impact of these policies. Our comprehensive conclusions will be presented at the end of the video. Before we begin, if you find value in understanding the complex gears of global politics and economics, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting that like button. It truly helps us reach a wider audience with crucial information. Also, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. The journey for visa applicants from certain nations is fraught with obstacles. Tight borders represent the first significant hurdle. Security protocols have intensified over the years, particularly following major global events, leading to more rigorous checks and scrutiny for travelers from specific regions. This heightened security often translates into longer processing times and a greater likelihood of initial rejection based on preliminary risk assessments, even before the applicant's individual merits are fully considered. Then comes the paperwork, an often bewildering maze of forms, supporting documents, and evidence requirements. Applicants must meticulously compile proof of financial stability, ties to their home country, the purpose of their visit, and sometimes extensive personal history. A single missing document or a minor inconsistency can lead to outright denial or lengthy delays as requests for additional information are issued. The burden of proof lies entirely on the applicant to demonstrate they are not an immigration risk and meet all the stringent criteria laid out by U.S. immigration law, such as Section 214(b) of the Immigration and Nationality Act, which presumes applicants intend to immigrate unless they prove otherwise. Finally, the approval odds themselves are starkly low for these nationalities. Statistics from the U.S. Department of State, though varying year by year, consistently show significantly higher refusal rates for visa categories like B1, B2, tourist, business, for citizens of these listed countries compared to the global average. This creates an environment where even highly qualified individuals with legitimate reasons for travel face a discouragingly high probability of rejection, often based on their nationality rather than their individual circumstances. This systemic difficulty raises questions about fairness, geopolitical influences on consular decisions, and the profound human cost for those caught in this web. Stay with us, as the picture becomes even clearer as we move through more examples. Remember to watch until the end for our concluding thoughts and analysis. Let's begin with Afghanistan. Consider the plight of individuals who wait in lines for hours, clutching faded documents that represent their only connection to a potential future, holding on to the smallest thread of hope. For many Afghans, the dream of reaching the U.S. remains just that, a dream. Since the Taliban's return to power in August 2021, the already challenging process of obtaining a U.S. visa has become virtually impossible for the vast majority. Visa approvals have plummeted to nearly zero. The withdrawal of U.S. forces and diplomatic personnel led to the suspension of most U.S. embassy operations in Kabul. This means Afghan applicants no longer have a local consulate to turn to. Instead, they are forced to undertake perilous and expensive journeys to third countries, such as Pakistan, Qatar, or the United Arab Emirates, just to submit their applications and attend interviews at U.S. embassies there. This added layer of complexity involves securing visas for these intermediate countries, arranging travel, and finding accommodation, all while navigating unfamiliar bureaucratic systems. The financial and logistical burdens are immense, placing this route beyond the reach of many. Even for those who manage to navigate this initial stage, the odds are overwhelmingly stacked against them. Rejection rates for Afghan visa applicants processed in these third countries soar above 90%. It's a heartbreaking cycle of hope and disappointment. One might assume that Afghans who directly assisted the U.S. mission, such as translators and interpreters who worked alongside U.S. troops, would receive prioritized processing through programs like the Special Immigrant Visa, SIV. While the SIV program exists specifically for this purpose, its implementation has been plagued by extensive backlogs and bureaucratic delays. Although some SIV applicants have been successfully evacuated and resettled, thousands remain in Afghanistan or neighboring countries, facing danger and uncertainty as they wait years for their applications to be processed. Reports indicate processing times stretching for years, leaving many in constant fear for their safety due to their association with the U.S. The country is now ensnared in a cycle of profound uncertainty. Visas are effectively blocked for most. The established process is broken, and the line of people desperate for escape, fleeing potential persecution, economic collapse, and a humanitarian crisis, continues to grow longer. Imagine needing to flee for your very life, seeking refuge or opportunity, only to be met with repeated denials, often without clear, individualized explanations. This is the stark reality for countless Afghans, and the situation shows no signs of improving in the near future. The diplomatic void and the dire security situation create an almost impenetrable barrier. Next, consider North Korea. You likely anticipated this entry. There's one nation from which escape is almost inconceivable, and securing a U.S. visa is essentially science fiction. We are, of course, referring to North Korea. The United States hasn't maintained a functioning embassy in Pyongyang for decades, severing direct diplomatic ties following the Korean War. The Swedish embassy historically acted as the U.S. protecting power, handling limited consular services, but even those operations are minimal and often suspended depending on the geopolitical climate. Therefore, North Korean citizens cannot apply for a U.S. visa within their own country. Even if a North Korean citizen managed the incredibly difficult and dangerous feat of escaping the country, a journey often involving perilous border crossings into China or Russia, risking capture and forcible repatriation, and reached a third country with a U.S. consulate, their chances of visa approval are vanishingly small, estimated to be less than 1%. The hurdles are immense. Most North Koreans are not permitted by their own government to leave the country. International travel is a privilege reserved for a select few, typically high-ranking officials or those on state-sanctioned missions. Unauthorized departure is treated as treason, with severe consequences for the individual and their family remaining in North Korea. Those who do manage to defect face immense risks. Many cross into China, where they live as undocumented refugees under constant threat of being discovered and sent back to North Korea, where they face imprisonment, torture, or execution. Here's the real shocker. Even North Korean defectors who have successfully reached safety, often after harrowing journeys through Southeast Asia, and have been resettled in countries like South Korea, struggle immensely to obtain U.S. visas, even for short visits or family reunification. While the U.S. has resettled a small number of North Korean refugees directly over the years, the process is exceptionally complex. For those resettled elsewhere, obtaining a non-immigrant visa to the U.S. is extraordinarily difficult. Consular officers often view North Korean applicants, even defectors, with extreme suspicion due to the lack of verifiable documentation, the difficulty in assessing ties to their country of resettlement, as they cannot return to North Korea, and overarching national security concerns associated with the North Korean regime. The diplomatic wall between the U.S. and North Korea is almost absolute. It's not merely red tape, it's fortified borders, intense surveillance, pervasive censorship, and total governmental control over citizens' lives, both internally and externally. That's why encountering someone carrying a North Korean passport within the United States is an exceptionally rare occurrence. highlighting the extreme isolation imposed by both internal restrictions and international barriers. Let's turn our attention to Iran. You might be surprised to learn that just a few decades ago, before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, the relationship between the US and Iran was markedly different. American tourists, students, and business people frequented Iran's cities, engaging in cultural exchange, commerce, and education. Thousands of Iranian students attended American universities, and the countries shared significant economic and military ties. However, the revolution dramatically altered this landscape. Today, Iran stands as one of the most challenging places for its citizens to secure approval for a US visa. Why the drastic change? It's a complex tapestry woven from threads of history, deep-seated mistrust, and a mountain of bureaucratic red tape. Following the 1979 revolution and the subsequent hostage crisis at the US Embassy in Tehran, diplomatic ties were severed. Decades later, there is still no official US embassy or consulate operating within Iran. The Swiss embassy in Tehran serves as the protecting power, handling limited consular affairs, but visa processing is not conducted there. This means every Iranian seeking a US visa must travel to a third country, typically US embassies or consulates in places like Turkey, Ankara, the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, or Armenia, Yerevan, to apply and attend their interview. This necessity adds significant layers of cost, risk, and potential delays to an already arduous process. Applicants must secure visas for these third countries, bear the expense of international travel and accommodation, and navigate the logistics, often requiring multiple trips. But the geographical hurdle is just the beginning. What truly exacerbates the situation is that Iran consistently ranks among the countries with the highest US visa refusal rates in Asia, particularly for non-immigrant visas like tourist and student visas. Many qualified applicants, individuals with strong academic records, professional backgrounds, or family ties to American citizens, face rejection. These denials are often issued under Section 214(b) of the Immigration and Nationality Act, citing the applicant's failure to overcome the presumption of immigrant intent. However, many Iranians feel these rejections are often based more on nationality and geopolitical tensions than on individual merit. Security screening processes for Iranian nationals are exceptionally stringent due to ongoing political friction, concerns over terrorism, and US sanctions against the Iranian regime. Past diplomatic strains, including travel bans implemented in recent years, though later rescinded or modified, have further complicated the process and fostered an environment of uncertainty and apprehension among applicants. You would be shocked at the number of highly qualified students accepted into prestigious US universities with full funding, accomplished scientists invited to conferences, and even close relatives of American citizens, spouses, parents, children, who are denied visas, often with no clear, specific explanation beyond the standard Section 214(b) refusal. Thousands apply annually, hoping for a chance at education, professional opportunities, or simply reuniting with loved ones, yet the vast majority walk away empty-handed. For those who do manage to navigate the first few steps, the wait times for interview appointments and subsequent processing can be agonizingly long, stretching for months or even years, leaving lives in limbo. It's a process characterized by length, emotional drain, and unpredictability. There's always that lingering question for applicants. Will I even get the chance to present my case properly? Meanwhile, back home, families wait, opportunities vanish, and hope diminishes with every delayed or unanswered communication. What was once a bridge facilitating exchange between two cultures has become a deep canyon of silence and separation, shaped by decades of political conflict and mistrust. The situation in Syria presents another stark example of visa barriers. Imagine meticulously filling out forms, gathering every required document, and ensuring every detail aligns with the regulations. You do everything by the book, hoping for a chance to travel, study, or escape conflict. But if your passport identifies you as Syrian, the chances of receiving a US visa are drastically low, regardless of your individual circumstances or the thoroughness of your application. Since the devastating civil war erupted in 2011, the pathway to the U.S. for Syrians has transformed from difficult to nearly impossible. The ongoing conflict, the collapse of state infrastructure, the rise of extremist groups, and the resulting humanitarian catastrophe have created a perfect storm that severely restricts visa issuance. The U.S. Embassy in Damascus suspended its operations and closed in February 2012 due to the escalating violence and security concerns. Consequently, Syrian applicants, like those from Iran and Afghanistan, must travel to U.S. diplomatic posts in neighboring countries, often Jordan, Lebanon, or Turkey, to apply for visas. This journey itself is fraught with danger and difficulty. Many Syrians are displaced within their own country or live as refugees in neighboring nations, facing restrictions on their movement and lacking the necessary resources or documentation to travel for visa appointments. Even reaching an embassy is a significant challenge. For those who manage to apply, the U.S. visa approval rate for Syrians is among the lowest in the world. The intense security screening procedures applied to nationals from conflict zones, coupled with concerns about potential security risks and the difficulty of verifying documentation from a war-torn country, lead to extremely high refusal rates. Section 214(b) denials are common, but specific security-related grounds, often undisclosed to the applicant, also play a significant role. Many Syrians applying for visas are not merely seeking better opportunities. They are fleeing extreme violence, persecution, and collapsing living conditions. They hope for asylum, refugee resettlement, or emergency relocation under humanitarian programs. However, these cases undergo intense scrutiny, and the processing systems are often overwhelmed and slow. While the U.S. has resettled a number of Syrian refugees over the years, the numbers are relatively small compared to the scale of the crisis, and the pathways remain limited and highly selective. Some applicants have waited over 5 years for a decision on their case, a decision that often never materializes, leaving them in perpetual limbo. You would be shocked at how many families remain separated by these bureaucratic and geopolitical walls, enduring years of uncertainty. Children are unable to join parents in the U.S., spouses face indefinite separation, and individuals needing critical medical treatment unavailable in Syria find their paths blocked. It's a silent crisis unfolding in embassy waiting rooms and through unanswered applications daily. The legal pathways are effectively blocked at nearly every turn by the combined weight of the conflict, security concerns, and complex, often slow-moving bureaucratic processes. Yemen offers another poignant illustration of these challenges. Try to picture this. Your home is engulfed in conflict. Access to basic necessities like clean water is a luxury, and the threat of violence looms closer each day. Bombs fall with terrifying regularity. Amidst this chaos, you gather the courage and resources to apply for a U.S. visa, pinning your hopes on finding safety, stability, or reuniting with loved ones abroad. However, if you are from Yemen, that dream of reaching the United States is almost always out of reach. The ongoing civil war, which escalated significantly in 2015, has created one of the world's worst humanitarian crises and has made obtaining a U.S. visa exceptionally difficult for Yemeni citizens. The U.S. visa approval rate for Yemenis is shockingly low. As with Syria, the U.S. Embassy in Sana'a suspended operations and closed in February 2015 due to the deteriorating security situation. The embassy has not reopened since. Yemenis are therefore forced to travel to U.S. embassies in third countries, such as Egypt, Cairo, or Djibouti, just to submit their visa applications. This journey is often prohibitively expensive and dangerous, requiring passage through conflict zones or navigating complex travel permissions. Assuming they even manage to make it to an appointment safely, the chances of success are minimal. Many visa applications from Yemeni citizens are either ignored, face interminable delays, or are denied outright. The rationale often involves stringent security screenings, concerns about verifying documents from a country with fragmented governance, and the application of Section 2014(b). The U.S. visa approval rate for Yemeni citizens has remained extremely low ever since the civil war intensified. Even individuals with valid, previously issued visas have reportedly been turned away mid-travel during periods of heightened restrictions or shifting policies. Imagine the devastation, all the preparation, the hope, the expense, crushed instantly at an airport gate or consular window. But here's what truly stings. Even the most vulnerable cases, including children and families seeking reunification or individuals needing urgent medical care, face immense hurdles. Those applying for humanitarian parole, one of the few remaining potential avenues, encounter massive delays and frequent rejections. Many applications seem to disappear into administrative processing purgatory, a state of indefinite review that can stretch for years without resolution. You would be shocked how many American citizens have family members, spouses, children, parents, stuck in Yemen, unable to join them in the U.S. due to years of backlogs, slow processing, or cases being silently closed without explanation. There appears to be no fast track, no reliable channel for clear communication, and for most, almost no hope of navigating the system successfully. The war has not only destroyed infrastructure and devastated lives within Yemen, but has also effectively severed most legal pathways for its citizens to escape the conflict and seek safety or opportunity in the United States. The visa wall is tall for many, but for Yemenis, it is practically impenetrable. Consider Iraq. He risked his life daily, serving as a translator alongside American troops, navigating dangerous situations and facilitating crucial communication. He followed every rule, submitted every document, and hoped his loyalty and service would pave the way for a future in the U.S. through the Special Immigrant Visa (SIV) program, designed specifically for individuals like him. Yet, even for someone with such a background, if he's from Iraq, obtaining that U.S. visa is far from guaranteed. Years after the main phase of the Iraq War, and despite significant historical ties and ongoing partnerships, Iraqi citizens still face some of the strictest and most protracted screening procedures in the world when applying for U.S. visas. You might think being an ally or having directly assisted U.S. efforts would streamline the process. But guess what? It often doesn't provide the expected advantage. Since the early 2000s, the visa application process for Iraqis has become one of the most difficult globally. While the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad remains operational, unlike those in Kabul, Damascus, or Sana'a, it functions under extremely tight security conditions. Visa services are available, but appointments can be scarce, processing times are lengthy, and security checks are exhaustive. Background checks for Iraqi applicants are extensive and notoriously slow, often involving multiple U.S. government agencies. Approval rates, while fluctuating, remain significantly lower than the global average, especially for non-immigrant visas. Iraqi applicants frequently encounter delays related to administrative processing, where cases are held for additional security reviews for months or even years without updates. And here's the eye-opener. There are thousands of Iraqi SIV applicants, individuals who provided faithful and valuable service to the U.S. government, often at great personal risk, who are still waiting for their visas. Some have been waiting for over 10 years, their cases seemingly lost in bureaucratic backlogs, while they remain in potentially dangerous situations in Iraq or neighboring countries. Some are in hiding, fearing retribution for their association with the U.S. Others have tragically lost family members while waiting for help that never arrived. Even standard family reunification petitions face significant delays. Iraqi Americans often struggle for years to bring spouses, children, or parents to the U.S. One misstep in the voluminous paperwork, a slight inconsistency during the interview, or a change in global policy can reset the entire process back to zero, leading to further years of waiting and uncertainty. Student and business visas are also incredibly rare and difficult to obtain. Many qualified Iraqi applicants, students accepted to universities, professionals with job offers, wait years, spend thousands on application fees and travel for interviews, only to receive no response or an eventual denial, often based on the ubiquitous Section 214(b). It's a maze of uncertainty, leaving countless individuals unable to pursue opportunities or reunite with loved ones, despite strong ties and legitimate reasons for travel. Now, let's look at Pakistan. You've secured the grades for university admission. You've received a job offer from a U.S. company. You've meticulously gathered all your documents and even paid the substantial application fee. Everything seems perfectly in order. But if you're applying with a Pakistani passport, that might still not be enough to get your U.S. visa application approved. Despite Pakistan being a major non-NATO ally and having one of the largest diaspora populations in the United States, Pakistanis face significant hurdles and high rejection rates when seeking U.S. visas. Here's the shocker. Every year, hundreds of thousands of Pakistani applicants attempt to enter the U.S. for various reasons: education, work, tourism, or visiting family. However, the rejection rate for B1, B2, tourist and business visas for Pakistan has hovered around 70%, and sometimes even higher in recent years, according to available U.S. State Department data. That means statistically, more than 2 out of every 3 applications are turned down. So, what's behind this high rate of refusal? Despite the large Pakistani-American community and historical ties, applicants from Pakistan face layers of extra screening, scrutiny, and delays. Consular officers frequently cite Section 214(b), the failure to prove non-immigrant intent, as the reason for denial. This often translates to a suspicion that the applicant might overstay their visa, even if they present substantial evidence of ties to Pakistan, such as property ownership, family commitments, or stable employment. Even students who have gained admission to top U.S. universities, sometimes with full scholarships, have had their F1 student visas denied without a clear, individualized reason. Some applicants report being asked to provide extraordinary levels of proof that they won't overstay, tasks that are difficult for anyone to satisfy definitively, regardless of having round-trip tickets, strong financial backing, or a guaranteed job to return to. And here's the frustrating part for many. Most rejections come without specific explanations or actionable feedback. There's typically no formal appeal process for non-immigrant visa denials. Applicants are simply left with a refusal stamp and the generic Section 214(b) citation, leaving them wondering what went wrong and whether reapplying would even make a difference. Furthermore, consular operations in major cities like Karachi and Islamabad can be overwhelmed. Interview appointments are often limited. Processing times can be slow, and sudden policy shifts or security alerts can lead to appointment cancellations or further processing delays with zero notice. Pakistani applicants often need to travel significant distances within the country for their interviews, taking time off work or studies, and incurring considerable expense, only to potentially face a brief, perhaps 2-minute interview ending in denial. Even family-based immigration faces challenges, with spouses, parents, and children of U.S. citizens or permanent residents sometimes enduring lengthy administrative processing waits. It's a harsh reality, a complex interplay of geopolitical factors, security concerns, consular resource limitations, and a high burden of proof placed on the applicant. And it's a struggle that isn't discussed often enough. Let's consider Bangladesh. You've waited months, perhaps longer, for your visa interview. You've prepared meticulously, gathering every possible document: bank statements, property deeds, letters of employment, family records. The paperwork is spotless. Your intentions are clear, perhaps to visit family, attend a university program, or pursue a business opportunity. But if you're applying from Bangladesh, chances are surprisingly high that you won't be getting that U.S. visa. Here's the cold reality. In recent years, data suggests that more than 50% of visa applications submitted by Bangladeshi citizens have been denied. That's over half of all applicants facing rejection. This applies across various visa categories, including tourist visas, B1, B2, student visas, F1, and even petitions for family reunification. The U.S. consulates in Dhaka frequently cite Section 214(b), the failure to convince the consular officer of non-immigrant intent, as the primary reason for refusal. Essentially, there's a prevailing suspicion that many applicants intend to overstay their visas. This suspicion often falls hardest on younger applicants, particularly single men in their 20s and 30s, even when they provide evidence of strong ties to Bangladesh, such as job offers, family responsibilities, or educational pursuits back home. You would be surprised how rigorously these ties are scrutinized and how often they are deemed insufficient by consular officers. Even Bangladeshi students who have secured admission, sometimes with full scholarships, to reputable American universities have faced visa denials, derailing years of academic preparation and future plans. They might have perfect academic records and confirmed funding, yet still face refusal weeks before their intended departure, often with little specific explanation. For many, this single visa denial can shatter years of preparation and hard work, closing doors to valuable educational and professional opportunities. Then there are the families. Parents hoping to attend a child's graduation ceremony in the U.S., relatives wishing to visit newborn grandchildren, or spouses seeking to join their partners. These deeply personal and often time-sensitive journeys are frequently blocked by visa refusals. Many are left heartbroken outside the consulate, holding passports stamped refused, after enduring long waits and significant expense just for the interview. The wait times for visa interview appointments in Dhaka can be extensive, sometimes stretching over 400 days. Imagine waiting over a year for an interview, only to potentially be told no in under 3 minutes, based largely on a subjective assessment of your intent. Furthermore, there is no formal appeal system for these non-immigrant visa denials. Applicants usually receive no specific feedback on why their evidence of ties was deemed insufficient, making it difficult to know how to improve a future application. It's often a case of simply being told no, without a clear path forward. Many rejections aren't necessarily based on wrongdoing, but on a prediction of future actions, the perceived risk of overstaying, which is a difficult and subjective hurdle to clear, especially with no recourse for appeal or clarification. The pressure doesn't stop there. The sheer volume of applications often overwhelms consular resources, potentially leading to shorter interview times and less individualized assessment. This combination of high suspicion, long waits, limited resources, and lack of appeal creates a deeply frustrating and often insurmountable barrier for thousands of Bangladeshis every year. Now, let's discuss Palestine. You possess the dream of traveling to the U.S., perhaps for education, medical treatment, or to reunite with family. You may even have a formal invitation or sponsorship. Your family might already be waiting for you, having navigated the U.S. immigration system themselves. But if your travel document identifies you as Palestinian, the odds are overwhelmingly stacked against you from the very start. Getting a U.S. visa is an extraordinarily complex and often heartbreaking process for Palestinians. You would be shocked at how many qualified Palestinian applicants are automatically sidelined or face insurmountable barriers, not because of individual merit or wrongdoing, but simply due to their identity and the geopolitical realities surrounding Palestine. A fundamental challenge is the lack of official U.S. recognition of Palestine as a sovereign state. This political stance complicates nearly every aspect of the visa process. Palestinians typically cannot select Palestine as their nationality on U.S. visa application forms. They often must list Jordan, Israel, or another country depending on their specific documentation, like a Palestinian Authority passport or a Jordanian travel document, which immediately creates complexities. Furthermore, there is no U.S. embassy or consulate within the Palestinian territories, the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Palestinians must apply through U.S. diplomatic missions in neighboring countries, primarily the U.S. Embassy branch office in Tel Aviv, for residents of Jerusalem, or those with Israeli permits, or the U.S. Embassy in Amman, Jordan. Residents of Gaza face extreme difficulty even leaving the territory to reach these embassies due to severe movement restrictions imposed by both Israel and Egypt. Just getting to the visa interview becomes an obstacle course involving permits, checkpoints, and uncertain passage. Even if an applicant manages to reach an embassy, rejection rates remain exceptionally high. Consular officers often apply intense scrutiny, citing Section 214B, presumption of immigrant intent, or security concerns related to the ongoing conflict and political instability. The lack of internationally recognized, standardized Palestinian documentation can also pose challenges for verification. For young Palestinian men, in particular, the suspicion of potential overstaying or security risks is often heightened, leading to frequent denials regardless of documented ties or legitimate travel purposes. Even cases involving clear humanitarian need or family reunification face significant hurdles. Imagine needing specialized medical treatment unavailable locally, having been accepted for care in the U.S., but being unable to obtain a visa. Consider families separated for years, with children in the U.S. unable to be visited by their parents or grandparents residing in the West Bank or Gaza. These are not hypothetical scenarios. They are the lived reality for many. Even when approvals are granted, mobility itself remains a major barrier. Gaza residents, for instance, require exit permits from Israeli authorities and potentially coordination with Egyptian authorities to leave the Strip, even if they possess a valid U.S. visa. These permits are often denied or significantly delayed, making travel unpredictable or impossible. Just getting to the airport after securing a visa can become another daunting challenge, an odyssey of checkpoints, restrictions, and permits that may never materialize. Thousands try each year, hoping against hope, but only a very small percentage successfully navigate this complex web. For many, the denial comes as a cold, stamped refusal with no specific reason, no appeal process, and no clear answers. It's a system where political status and geography create profound, often invisible barriers that shatter dreams of travel, education, family connection, and even life-saving medical care. Finally, we arrive at Myanmar, also known as Burma. You have the acceptance letter from a prestigious U.S. university, confirming your place and perhaps even funding. Your academic record is strong, your paperwork is flawless, and your intention is solely to pursue education. Or perhaps you're a professional invited to a conference, or someone hoping to visit family. But if you hold a passport from Myanmar, securing that U.S. visa might still be an uphill battle, fraught with uncertainty and potential denial. Why? Because applicants from Myanmar are caught in a challenging confluence of factors: bureaucratic hurdles, political instability, and heightened suspicion from consular authorities. Following the military coup in February 2021 and the subsequent political turmoil, economic instability, and human rights concerns, the U.S. visa process for Myanmar citizens has become increasingly difficult. While the U.S. Embassy in Yangon remains operational, visa services can be subject to delays and stricter scrutiny. Visa denial rates for applicants from Myanmar have reportedly increased, especially in the wake of the coup and related U.S. sanctions targeting the military regime. As with applicants from many other nations on this list, Section 214(b), failure to establish non-immigrant intent, is a common reason for refusal. Consular officers may harbor concerns about applicants potentially overstaying due to the unstable situation back home. Over the past few years, visa denial rates for Myanmar have indeed skyrocketed. Political instability often leads to assumptions about applicants' intentions, regardless of individual circumstances. You'd be shocked to know that even highly qualified individuals, students accepted into PhD programs, doctors invited for fellowships, professionals with established careers, have been rejected for seemingly minor reasons, or sometimes with no clear reason given at all beyond the standard refusal code. Many must travel from other parts of the country to Yangon for their interviews, incurring significant cost and time, only to face potential rejection. Even family reunification cases, where parents seek to visit children studying or working in the U.S. or vice versa, can become entangled in lengthy administrative processing or face outright denials. People often wait years for interviews, only to be told, your visa is refused under Section 214(b), a decision that feels arbitrary and lacks transparency. The journey often ends before it truly begins, not due to the applicant's fault, but due to the broader political context and the resulting consular caution. What did we just uncover? From the conflict zones of Afghanistan and Syria to the isolated regime of North Korea, and through nations facing political strife, historical tensions, or high overstay concerns like Iran, Yemen, Iraq, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Palestine, and Myanmar, getting a U.S. visa often feels like hitting a locked door, repeatedly. Some denials stem from complex diplomatic relations, or lack thereof. Others are rooted in security protocols and the difficulty of verification in unstable regions, Many fall under the broad umbrella of Section 214(b), reflecting fears of visa overstays, but the result is consistent. Millions are left in limbo, separated from family, denied educational or professional opportunities, and sometimes blocked from seeking safety or essential medical care. It's not just about paperwork. It's about people. Students with aspirations, families longing for reunification, individuals seeking refuge, and travelers hoping to connect with the world. Yet the systems, shaped by geopolitics, security anxieties, and bureaucratic limitations, often work against them, creating silent crises in embassy waiting rooms and through unanswered applications every single day. What are your thoughts on these visa barriers? Do you know someone affected by these challenges? Let us know in the comments below. Your engagement helps keep these important conversations going. Don't forget to like this video if you found it informative. Subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analysis of global issues, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our future updates. Thank you for watching.